The beauty of the Wasatch Mountains in late spring and the grandeur of the Mormon Temple Square greeted participants and visitors of the 202nd General Assembly. This spectacular valley south of the Great Salt Lake is the religious center for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But for 9 days in late May and early June, it became the decision-making center of the Presbyterian Church, USA.
You get everything in there. You're all set. Welcome to Salt Lake City.
All right.
May I have your attention, please? The 202nd General Assembly of the Presbyterian Church USA is now in order.
Before the hard work of the assembly began, however, more than 4,000 people paused to celebrate the publication of the denomination's new hymnal and to honor outgoing moderator Joan SalmonCampbell.
It is with an enormous amount of pleasure that I present to you this first deluxe edition of the new Presbyterian hymnal on behalf of the publishing house, the hymnal committee, and those many others who have made this grand publishing event possible.
Worshippers were called to the opening communion service by singing an interpretive dance.
Jesus took the bread, and when he had given thanks, he blessed it, broke it, and said, "This is my body."
SalmonCampbell told the worshippers that General Assembly is more than a business meeting. She said Presbyterians are in Salt Lake City because of God's grace and will, to use their particular gifts and perspectives for the work of ministry. She said, "Know that God intends to use every one of you in important and powerful ways." SalmonCampbell acknowledged the commissioners would not always agree in the days ahead. She urged them to be gentle with each other when they disagreed. The election of a new moderator highlighted the first full day of the assembly. 6 men from across the United States, 2 elders, and 4 ministers, each nominated by their presbytery, presented their views to the assembly and answered questions from the floor.
I declare that Price Gwynn is duly elected to the office of moderator of the 202nd General Assembly. Will someone please escort him to the platform?
Gwynn's father and grandfather were Presbyterian ministers. He's an elder at Steel Creek Presbyterian Church in Charlotte, North Carolina, president of a packaged products company, and a university instructor. He was elected on the second ballot. Gwynn told reporters he has no secret or hidden agenda for the church, but he does have a plan.
We want to be a worshiping, witnessing, serving community of believers in Jesus Christ that is inclusive, pluralistic, and ingathering. And that very definition means that we're going to disagree. It goes with the territory.
Gwynn appointed the Reverend Sharon Johnson of Van Nuys, California, as vice moderator. Much of the work of the General Assembly is handled in committees. There, commissioners debated issues raised by overtures, reports, and resolutions, and recommended action to the full assembly. Topics varied from pay raises, health care, pension fund use, problem pregnancies, gay and lesbian rights, to a faith statement, ecology and social justice, gun control, a national youth program, the church in Eastern Europe, and the relationship between Presbyterians and Latter-day Saints. The assembly took a break from its routine to attend the premiere showing of a new movie on the denomination, The Presbyterians, Part 1, The People, the first segment in a 5-part set.
This is a film about people, people who believe in God, in Jesus Christ, and in the power of the Holy Spirit. We're not people who think we have all the right answers, but we do believe we're asking the right questions. Our political and philosophical views are as varied as the clothes we wear or the cars we drive. We're rich and poor and everything in between. But we do have one thing in common. We're Presbyterian.
The story is told through unscripted testimony by Presbyterians who worship in large and small churches across the United States.
In the social issues, we want to affect public policy. We want to be where things make a difference.
The first tough part was accepting that I would do a film for a group of people that said there were 500 things I had to have in their 28-minute film. That was tough. The second toughest part was discovering how much wonderful stuff there was out there and figuring how are we going to make this of a piece? How is it going to have a sense of wholeness, a sense of integrity? What's it really going to be about?
It's great. What do you think?
I think it spoke to my heart.
That's right.
It really made me feel proud to be a Presbyterian and happy that I am, and it renewed my faith.
I was very much impressed. I've been a Presbyterian all my life, and this was very special. It touched lots of areas that I've touched.
I wept because I know the struggles and the aspirations, and I also know the needs which the Presbyterian Church is meeting for all of the people.
Just thought it was a fabulous movie, and it moved me. I was touched by it.
Read the first part until we get to verse 3, and then we'll go around.
There was another first at this year's General Assembly, Bible study. 6 times for about 45 minutes after lunch, participants gathered in small groups to study passages related to the theme, "Here am I, Lord, send me." And, of course, the routine was broken by visits to the bookstore and international gift shop, plus numerous display booths. The gift shop featured handicrafts from around the world. And wherever Presbyterians are gathered, food is never far away. Organizations and ministry units hosted breakfasts, lunches, and dinners to highlight special concerns, present awards, and gather friends.
Responses to referrals. Number 1, 34.087 through .088. A response.
Despite all the diversions, however, the work of the General Assembly was never far away and rarely out of mind. A proposal to separate the debt-ridden major medical insurance program from the pension plan for nearly 20,000 church employees was widely debated but not approved. A controversial pay hike for employees of the Board of Pensions was another hot topic. The board voted last spring to set its pay scale higher than the one governing all other church workers because it needed to hire some computer and data processing specialists. The Assembly rejected that move on a permanent basis and recommended the pay hikes be rescinded effective July 1st.
The Board of Pensions was trying to institute 3 additional pay grades and do some salary increases in the middle of the year, and the General Assembly felt that this was inappropriate.
And much to the surprise of some Presbyterians, the Assembly voted overwhelmingly to eliminate Chapter 9 provisions governing special interest organizations from the Book of Order.
This overture will go to the Presbyterians to be debated by them, and if a majority of them approve, then that vote will come back to next year's Assembly. And if next year's Assembly approves, then that provision of the Chapter 9 of the Book of Government will be deleted from the Book of Government.
22 organizations are currently related to the church through Chapter 9, including Presbyterians for Lesbian and Gay Concerns, the Presbyterian Lay Committee, Presbyterians Pro-Life, and the Witherspoon Society. Chapter 9 status includes special seats on the floor of the Assembly and display space in the exhibit hall. Also, the Assembly voted to regard the plight of the African American male as a special ongoing concern.
Presbyterians know that this is a necessary item and a problem. I'm a little bit concerned because we're talking about $1 million of brand new money that I don't know where it's going to come from.
One of the most positive actions of this year's Assembly was to endorse a brief statement of faith for the denomination.
I'd like for the Assembly to commend the Committee on 15 and 20 for their wonderful work and for the wonderful confession they've committed to the church.
I agree, and it is time. A rising round of applause. Stand up.
The 80-line statement will also be considered by presbyteries before next June. It is a personal faith statement which begins, "In life and in death we belong to God." In other action, the General Assembly approved an increase in administrative costs for the Bicentennial Fund and made optional the collection of the additional money from governing bodies that participated in Cycles 1 and 2. Some 85 missionaries were commissioned, the largest class in more than a decade to be sent from the United States, and another 77 missionaries from other locations were commissioned to work here. The moderator burned the mortgage for the Presbyterian Center in Louisville, just 2 years after $13 million was borrowed to reconstruct the building. Pentecost was celebrated with an ecumenical procession to the Salt Palace. A worship service followed the parade. Worshippers were asked to consider whether, in light of changes underway in Eastern Europe, our congregations and our homes make clear the newness of life offered to us each day.
By authority granted to me by the Constitution of the Presbyterian Church USA and the rules of this assembly, I declare the 202nd General Assembly adjourned and dissolved upon the convening of the 203rd General Assembly on June 4, 1991, in Baltimore, Maryland.
I will tell the congregation and the people of my presbytery that the Presbyterian Church is well and alive. We may have a headache from time to time, but we are doing well.
I think they're going to be interested to know that I think the church is still very Christ-centered and mission-oriented, and I think that's what they're going to be mostly interested in.
I think one of the first thing is our new brief statement of faith. And I came not too sold on that, but I'm really convinced now, and I'll be very glad to talk about that very much.
It was a great demonstration of democracy in action.